Minnesota Jewish leaders highlight VP Pick Tim Walz's commitment to community in Israel. I mean, this is a Jerusalem Post article. I'm sorry. This is wish casting in the opposite direction. If the Harris-Walz ticket wins the White House, Steve Hunegs, executive director of the JCRC, said he expects Walz to approach Israel policy by stressing the importance of the U.S.-Israel relationship. Right now, every single person is either going, he went and talked to CAIR, Council for American Islam Relations, so he's like Somali, he's a Somalian secretly, or that he is going to be like unconditionally committed to Israel. Obviously, the commitment to Israel part, Somali, not Somalian, sorry. No, they're calling him a Somalian. I'm saying Somali if I were to reference him, but people that say he's Somali don't say that. They keep calling him Somalian. Anyway, you should go and meet him here at the Minnesota State Fair, August 22nd. I'm gonna meet him at the DNC, I hope. I'm trying. I would love to link up with him and Sean Fain, squad members. Yeah, this would not have happened if not for Uncommitted. In his defense, Shapiro's backers pointed to his public condemnation of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and concerns about the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. But some Democratic lawmakers and donors privately expressed concerns to people around Harris that Shapiro's position on Israel and the pro-Palestinian movement risked alienating voters who had sworn off Biden but were willing to give Harris a fresh look. Don't pick a Jew isn't the win you think it is. It's so funny because Edinger Mentum is Jewish himself, but of course, like immediately, automatically, everyone is literally like, oh, dude, you're anti-Josh Shapiro or you're anti-Zionist. Oh, that must mean you're not Jewish. Like the funniest thing, and I see this with like Sam Cedar, especially my real uncle, Uncle Sam, my goat. People will constantly be like, yeah, look at how anti-Semitic the Democratic Party is. And he'll be like, news to me. What's going on here? What? He'll be like, yeah, people don't want Josh Shapiro because he's Jewish. Like, no, man. No. It's a silly state of affairs. Walz on being in the pocket of organized labor. Oh, this is another one. Someone said once, Walz is in the pocket of organized labor, and I said, that's a damn lie. I am the pocket. I
remember, some of you remember this. I had an opponent who thought this was a real zinger when we were going at it. He said, Governor Walz is in the pocket of organized labor. And I said, that is a damn lie. I am the pocket. Look, seeing folks here, and I heard Senator Klobuchar make note of this. It was 40 years ago this week that Vice President Walter Mondale broke that glass ceiling and picked your...
By the way, Austin Show just texted me and he said, I used to think that capitulating to the center was a good idea and the right move. I understand now why Dems have been losers for so long. Bro, this is big stuff, okay? You got centrist libs turning around and being like, hey, maybe we should lean into good policies, sound policies that actually help people. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's the method. Good. Do it. Forgive me if you've already talked about this, but I think it's worth mentioning. What is this? Tim Walz's model of masculinity, one of wholesome... What is that? This person blocked me. One of wholesome, benevolent cheerfulness, offers a really stark contrast of the boorish domination of Trump and spine-chilling creepiness of Vance. They also aren't masculine. Like, Donald Trump is zesty as they don't even fit the stereotype of like what masculinity is supposed to be. Their own stereotypes. Because in American politics and in America in general, in the Western world in general, people basically say masculinity is just confidence. Okay, that's what it is. That's what they can characterize it as, no matter whatever the they want to characterize it as, but ultimately they're talking about confidence. That's literally what it is. This doesn't mean that that's a masculine trait automatically. Like, you can be feminine and be confident, obviously. But that is what they're talking about when they talk about being alpha. And the reality of the matter is, a guy like JD Vance is oozing with insecurity. A guy like Donald Trump is oozing with insecurity. He might be narcissistic enough to like shield that side of himself, but you can see it when he talks about age-old grievances that he holds on to, that he carries everywhere with himself, like Graydon Carter, that sissy Graydon Carter that didn't invite him to one Vanity Fair party. These guys simply say that they are. And something that you always have to remember is, if you have to say it, you ain't it. If you have to constantly say it, then you're not it. That's why it's so funny when these motherfuckers are like, yo, this guy, Hasan, you are so soy. Unlike my favorite commentator, Ben Shapiro. It's like, come on, dude. Sure. Okay. To an Israeli who genuinely doesn't know, how would you sum up Walz's position on Israel more generally and with respect to this war specifically? I think he's pro-Israel in the same exact way that the average Democrat has been historically, but he has interesting blips in his foreign policy. In the House, Walz played a significant... This is from... Ida now works at Just Foreign Policy. I did not know that. She's a comms director and policy advisor for Just Foreign Policy. She is a journalist at The Nation, used to write for The Intercept as well. Ida is a wonderful person. Love her. Here's a thread on Tim Walz's foreign policy record. In the House, Walz played a significant role in the pushing back against the new war in Syria during both the major pushes for U.S. involvement in 2013 and 2016. He was also a strong voice in defending Congress's war powers. Walz helped lead a larger group of House Democrats to urge Obama to not go to war in Syria, which was critical to undermining pressure that was building on Obama to wage a war he didn't want to fight. Walz-Conyers' molten letter calling on the Obama admin to continue pursuing a diplomatic solution was right after the 50 State Department officials came out urging for war. To get a sense of just how pro-war the narrative had become, check out the hit piece that Political's Nahal Tusi did on the latter. House Dems back Obama on Syria despite bloodshed. Walz pushing back against the new war in Syria in 2013. We have to challenge the administration, he said. If we're being true to who we are, it is about the constitutional responsibility of the House. It should not matter who is the occupant of the White House. After 12 years of war, the American public has every right to weigh in and expect their views be represented in Congress, Walz said. Walz co-sponsored all of the Yemen war powers resolutions and even co-sponsors bills opposing the U.S.-backed coup in Honduras. On Cuba, Walz opposed aspects of Trump's policy, calling it short-sighted and misguided. He focused on opening markets for agricultural trade to benefit both Minnesota farmers and the Cuban people. Yeah, he was a supporter of legislation to allow our systems of credit to create markets for our farmers in Cuba so we can export. Walz on war powers. On the 16th anniversary of the 2001 AUMF passage, we're reminded it's Congress' duty to hashtag vote on war. Hashtag endless war is not sustainable. Time to debate and vote. Walz also was an advocate for the Iran deal in 2015. Former Secretary of State Colin Powell, Iran agreement a good deal with very vigorous verification. None of our options are gone. Foreign policy is much better than most U.S. governors. Yeah, I mean, this wasn't when he was a governor, chatter. He also was in Congress as well. Is pushing the Dems hate Jews narrative a legitimate line of attack for the Republicans to take a win a significant amount of orders? Why are they pushing so hard? They're flailing. That's why he went on Aiden Ross's stream. The Republican Party is flailing. They are looking for new avenues because anyone that was tuned into the television during the 4 years of the Trump presidency has already made up their minds on Donald Trump, whether they are definitely ride or die and lock the in for Donald Trump, or they will never vote for Donald Trump ever. So for that reason, they're looking at new angles. They're looking at new avenues, new demographics that they previously had not been able to capture. One of those demographics are people who were too young to make a real assessment of the Trump administration and remember how they felt under the Trump administration. That's young voters. Now, is this actually a successful method for the Republican Party? I don't think so. Even with how much right-wing manosphere style content has dominated the brains and the Andrew Tate style orbiters, and Andrew Tate himself has dominated the brains of young boys in this country, I still don't think Gen Z is as invested in the Republican Party as the Republican Party thinks it might be. So that's one. The other one is the black vote, specifically the black male vote. The Trump campaign has made significant leeway with every male voter in every demographic. It's not just black men, even though the black men vote is significantly smaller margins than every other non-college educated voter base. But across the board, the Trump administration plays really well to non-college educated men in this country. Across the board. With white men, it's a massive disparity. With Latino men, it's a pretty sizable disparity. And with black men, it is actually historically much higher than ever before. This has caused the Trump administration, in my opinion, to falsely think that they can make leeway and put a dent in the black vote in general. It's not going to happen. It's a stronghold for the Democratic Party, partially because the Republican Party has a very hard time not doing white supremacist rhetoric in a way that black people immediately recognize. Why you following think tank actors? Perhaps because I know them personally, and I've known them since before they were working at think tanks, including not Leeway, Headway. Sorry, you're right. And also, yeah, I know them in the real world, and they're great journalists. So, anytime Donald Trump says some weird shit about black people, anytime he defends police, anytime he says something like Kamala Harris is not a real black woman, or that maybe the police were doing all right with the Sonia Massey murder, which was gruesome and horrific, of course. Anytime any Republican anywhere around the country says something like Kamala Harris is a DEI candidate, every black and brown person immediately perks up. Okay, they hear that because they've heard that their whole lives. Affirmative action pick, CRT, woke, DEI, the N-word, all of that. It's just another reminder of the exact same shit that right-wingers have said about them. They know what it means. So you can't do that while also simultaneously try to win over people of color to your side. Trump says she's Indian. Come on. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Trump is like, she's not black, she's Indian. She's both. Like, that's ridiculous. Trump literally will look at a black woman dead ass and say, you turned black. It's ridiculous. Important to note that a lot of the DEI shit is rooted in insecurity. A guy doesn't get the job or scholarship, immediately has to find an external reason to defend their ego. Yeah, I know. So yeah, I think ultimately these are all really silly attack points. Meet Tim Walz, Harris's VP, progressive favorite with mainstream views on Israel and Iran. Walz voiced opposition to the Iraq War and traveled to Israel and Syria while in Congress, and has sought to address division over pro-Palestinian protests in the Democratic Party as governor of Minnesota. Walz has expressed support for Israel throughout his career while advocating for more aid to the Palestinians and, more recently, a ceasefire in Gaza and a two-state solution. In an April interview with a local PBS affiliate, Walz described both Hamas' October 7 attack on Israel and the situation in Gaza as intolerable. A two-state solution and a workable solution has to be there, he told the Twin Cities PBS. The United States needs to continue to push for that, and we need to make sure that humanitarian aid is getting there. Walz called for a ceasefire in Gaza in a March interview with the Minnesota Public Radio. That is outflanking a lot of other Democrats too, by the way. I certainly call for a ceasefire. It has to be a working ceasefire, he said. I've asked for these humanitarian pauses to get folks out. I want this thing to end. I don't want a ceasefire to last for a week or something like that. We need a permanent solution. Walz ordered Minnesota's flags to be flown at half-mast after October 7 and denounced the attack in a meeting with members of the state's Jewish community. What was evident on Saturday morning was the absolute lack of humanity, the terrorism, and the barbarism, he told attendees at Beth El Synagogue on October 10. Walz praised the U.S. President Joe Biden in his October trip to Israel in efforts to secure more aid for Palestinians in Gaza. The vast majority of Palestinians are not Hamas, and Hamas does not represent the Palestinian people, said Walz in a post on X upon Biden's return. We cannot let terrorists like Hamas win. The governor traveled to Israel and the Palestinian territories in 2009, met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, spoke at AIPAC in 2010. As governor, Walz expressed concerns about pro-Palestinian protests at U.S. universities. In the same interview with the Twin Cities PBS, he said students need to be able to express opinions, but added that Jewish students must be able to feel safe. When Jewish students are telling us they feel unsafe, we need to believe them, and I do believe them, he said. Walz has demonstrated empathy with pro-Palestinian voters in the Democratic Party. In the March interview with Minnesota Public Radio, he praised Minnesotans who voted uncommitted as civically engaged. Some Democratic voters wrote uncommitted on their ballots in the Democratic Party presidential primary in opposition to Biden's support for Israel. This is also another one of the reasons why I was also a firm defender of the uncommitted vote and a firm supporter of it. That is how you get people to pay attention, and some people did. I'm willing to bet that that dynamic possibly changed his attitude a little bit as well. I asked you a couple months ago if you'd vote for Biden, and you gave me shit for it. No, I said I was not going to ever vote for Joe Biden, and now I don't have to. People are frustrated, but it bodes well for me that they're actively engaged to go out and cast this vote and ask for change. So the one hopium moment that I have, like I said, is that the Democrats will wake the up. And it's also shit like this. In 2019, Tim Walz attended a CAIR Minnesota meeting. Hate and Islamophobia have no place in Minnesota. When our Muslim communities thrive, Minnesota thrives. Thank you, CAIR Minnesota and Choose Metro, for putting on this event. Jordan Chattel quote tweeted this and said, the Dem ticket is reportedly swapping out Josh Shapiro with the governor who is beholden to CAIR, the infamous US-based Hamas front group. Last week, a top CAIR official publicly mourned Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh's death, declaring that his martyrdom is not in vain. So you have to understand that, to me, and the big Somali population in Minnesota, to me, and Walz's association and consistent defense of the Somali population in his state cause a little bit of hopium for me. Okay, a little bit of hopium, just a bit. I don't know. No, CAIR is the Committee for American Islamic Relations. Yes, it's a civil rights group for Muslims in this country. And of course, for that reason, they're constantly routinely called terrorist supporters by some of the most bloodless sociopaths you've ever seen in your life. I'm a former Crowder watcher that's been converted by you and mostly Ethan. You're not going to agree with everything I say, okay? There's going to be plenty you don't agree with, but just be open-minded. That's all I ask. If you have the capacity to be charitable and be open-minded, you might recognize that a lot of your positions that you held on to prior, maybe you held on to due to fear. I voted for Trump in 2020, was banned from your channel for saying you were riding Democrats, and now 4 years later, you have changed my opinion on so many matters. I feel so much better about who I am today. Hell yeah. Called growth, man. I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. On the other side of the pipeline, I've always been a leftist, and a lot of clips made you out to be further right than you actually were. I thought you were some annoying rich centrist, but through Ethan is Online, I realized your positions are literally so close to mine and came here to get more political education, especially after October 7. You kept me informed and helped me understand the world better. Yeah, I have haters on every fucking side of the American political spectrum. I got annoying anarchists, MAGA communists, people who present themselves as like radical vanguardists. that despise me as well. I got liberals who hate me, claim that I'm right wing. I got right wingers who hate me, claim that I'm liberal. I think ultimately, you know, I haven't changed course, changed trajectory. My positions are firmly grounded within reason and also within just empirical evidence. You haven't had red-pilled fake edits forever, though. I came here as a conservative who just was born in the Midwest, unexposed to shit since I was showing Ben Shapiro. Then I watched you and agree way more with how you explain things and debunk lies. Hell yeah, the veil. Doesn't the hate ever get too much? No, the hate sucks. There's nothing you could do about it though. It's a constant. I'm used to it. I've been getting it from when I was a much smaller content creator at the Young Turk. For me, it doesn't matter because ultimately, for all of the hate that I receive from outside groups that are just like working every angle they possibly can to disparage me, I still have an amazing community, a community that can be unimaginably impactful in moments that matter. That's why I keep doing this shit. I relied on this community throughout COVID. You know, this was my support system. So I have a reverse parasocial relationship with my own community as well. And I believe in the work. I believe in what we do here. I believe in changing people's minds. I think I have a fairly tolerant approach to politics, although I do have my heated moments. But you guys are the reason why I do what I do every day.